Well, good morning, everybody. So grateful to be here today with you. So honored that Reverend Lane would trust me here to support the message this morning, and we're off to a great start. It's been wonderful to be part of the wedding of Lane and Terry's and to be in the sand, barefoot in the sand. I'd kind of like to be barefoot in the sand this morning, too, but I'll be happy to be right here, right now. MLR's readings were perfect today for supporting my message and demonstrating an element of the message I want to share today. I am talking about from believing to embodying. And there are some things that I think that we need to look at as a religious science movement about how we are in the co-creative process with the divine. Some language that we have and that we use and that was in the readings that's not incorrect language at all. It's just, I think, to be most effective in our use of our tools and our practices, we have to have a deeper awareness about it. So if you've been around at all in this teaching, you've probably heard something that our founder, Ernest Holmes, said quite frequently, which is change your thinking, change your life. I recently saw an advertisement, I think it was Jeff Goldblum, it was about apartments, and it was change your apartments, change your life, and I thought, he stole that from us, or they stole that, but change your thinking, change your life. Now, this is absolutely true, and you even said it in the readings. Holmes said it all the time. But here's the thing about that word think. Most of us actually think we know what we really think. But when Holmes is talking about thinking, he's not talking just about that element of the mind or the brain that science tells us. Our brain, our conscious mind, is only about maybe 5 to 15% of what's going on in our brain. Our brain is much like a computer. When you look on your screen, you can see what's happening on the computer, but deep down inside, there's a lot more going on. And the same is true for you and for me. And so about 85% of what we really think is at the deeper level. So when we want to change our thinking and change our life, most of us will start, or we might even persist in thinking, if I just change what I think, that's all that matters. And we don't go deeper. We don't go into the deeper mind. And we sometimes are afraid to go there. Sometimes that's a neighborhood we don't want to walk in, right? But it is an absolute necessity for us to go into that neighborhood, go into that deeper element of our awareness, which includes the subjective and the subconscious level of the mind and the ideas we've taken on all of our life and have embraced as truths that we get to then critically challenge. And when we begin to critically challenge those deeper beliefs, we can begin to make changes. And I'm guessing that if you're like me, there are probably places in your life where you look out and you go, I don't remember thinking that. I do not remember ever thinking that idea at all. Good, bad, or indifferent. It might be something that you go, wow, this is some blessing. I don't remember ever thinking that, but I'm so grateful for it. Or some curse that you think, I wish that would go away. I don't remember ever thinking that. So change your thinking, change your life only works so far as you are willing to look at the deeper recesses of the mind to understand, to comprehend, to encounter, and then to challenge what is at the deeper level of the mind. It's good, hard work. It takes coming to church. It takes doing classwork. It often takes working with a practitioner. That's a huge part of what our practitioners do with us, is to help us from an objective viewpoint begin to see, hey, what are you really believing? This is what you say you believe, but what are you really believing about life, to begin to change it? So if I were to edit Ernest Holmes, which I'm prone to do, and because of our wonderful teaching I'm free to do to some extent, I would offer a new idea that feels a little deeper to me, which is change your belief, change your mind. That belief is born out of some deep idea and notion that I might have about myself or my life. And so it's important for us to begin to consider what it is that we really believe. And Ernest Holmes quotes the master teacher Jesus a lot, who told us, "As ye believe, it is done unto you." So belief is important. We who are so grateful to live in a free country are free to believe what we want to believe. And we, if we truly believe in freedom, get to extend that belief to other people, that other people can believe what they want to believe, even if it's diametrically opposed to what I believe. So we can get very passionate about what we believe, and a huge part of living is growing and evolving so that I can challenge my deep held beliefs and I can get really clear about what I want to believe. What beliefs do I want to foster for myself? So there's this upside of self-awareness that can happen when we dance with our belief systems. But there's another side, a side that's also not so pretty. And that is that we humans, we can get really attached to what we believe, can't we? And then we project it all over each other. We do it in our most intimate relationships. I believe this, and so why don't you believe that? You should believe it too. If I believe it, you should believe it. It's the source of some of the greatest pain and conflicts in relationships. And it doesn't matter whether it's about how you squirt the toothpaste out of the tube or how you spend money. This is where people get really frustrated with each other. And then if we look out into the world, of course, there's also sorts of beliefs that cause people to move forward in powerful ways about their lives, about their religion, about their politics, about their morals, about the way they raise their children, about money and investing, about how we treat other people of different colors, of different racial backgrounds, of different countries, of different... We have all sorts of beliefs about what's right and wrong about life. And unfortunately, when we fall into the challenging side of our belief systems, then we start to not get along very well. And we start to find conflict. And so a lot of times our beliefs and the energy that rises up from it can lead us into fear, can cause us to have fear. What's going to happen if I believe that everyone should be free to love whomever they are they are in love with, which I personally believe, but you don't believe that? What happens then? Do we get along? Do we not get along? Can we be with each other? Can we love each other even when we don't believe the same thing about life? We get very attached and we can become very fear-based about our beliefs, even the most precious ones. If I believe something and the rest of the people in my family or the rest of the people in my government don't believe that, what could happen? Everything could fall apart. Everything could be challenged. So fear is sometimes below the surface of our belief systems. And I often talk about how our belief systems can be kind of like a search engine on a computer. If I were to open Google today, for example, and I were to search romantic relationships, but I would have put the word fear in there, I would probably get all sorts of stories about why one should be afraid to be in a romantic relationship. Because a search engine works like that. It can only reflect back to us what we've put into it. Now, does that sound familiar? Yeah. There's this thing called the law that Ernest Holmes talks about over and over and over again. So we may think that it's wonderful to have passionate, fervent, strong beliefs about something, but sometimes the more passionate we are, the more below the surface is fear. That causes us to want to spouse our beliefs off to other people, that wants to beat other people over the head with our beliefs, that causes us to fall into something we call righteousness. A righteousness that's closed-minded, a righteousness that's mean-spirited, a righteousness that is not reflective of a vision of love. And so we are challenged. This is one of our greatest challenges. And even in every faith tradition of the world, I have a theory that there are those in every faith tradition of the world who are righteous and fundamental about it, and those who are more mystical. We have righteous fundamental Christians, and we have very mystical cosmic Christ Christians. We have people who practice Judaism, who are Orthodox Jews, who are very committed to it, and then we have the mystical, more Kabbalistic side of Judaism. Then we have many different Buddhist sects that are very righteous about their practice of Buddhism, and others that are a little bit more mystical and open. Now, we in our teaching, we like to think that we are the more mystical, open side, and I think Ernest Holmes was, but we can get a little bit righteous and fundamental at times too. I used to have a man in our congregation in Scottsdale who would tell me very clearly that if I did not have a quote by Ernest Holmes in my talk, it was a bad talk. That was his measurement. I found that to be a little bit fundamentalist, in my opinion. Though I don't mind quoting Ernest Holmes, I don't think even Holmes would demand that we ministers and practitioners quote him every time we get up to speak. So there's this place that we need to find for ourselves that can be more open. I'm sure we all know somebody who's really righteous about their morals or about their belief about how everybody should be eating, or their belief about exercise, their belief about parenting, their philosophy or their religion. And I'm just going to say that if we look around at the world, it's righteousness that's bombing Ukraine. It's righteousness that is harming humans anywhere on this planet that it's occurring. So it seems to me that when we take on passionate belief, which is not in and of itself a horrible thing to do, as long as we can refrain from projecting and demanding that others believe what we believe, it's not a horrible thing. It can serve us, it can support us, but ultimately, if I am having a passionate belief in something that is filled with attachment, below the surface of that can often be great fear. And just like that search engine, I'm not going to get what I really want back. I'm going to see reflected back to me fear. I'm going to see reflected back to me often that exactly that I don't want to have happen, because I'm not paying attention to that deeper energy. I liken this to this teaching. Now, I found, luckily, this teaching when I was a teenager. I was 15 years old, and my mother and I wandered into Mile High Church, and I feel very blessed about it. And one of the first things that I loved about the teaching is it was probably because I had been kicked out of catechism for asking too many questions. No, that's hard for you to believe that would happen to me, but it did. And so I was pleased that I found this teaching that they would allow me as a teenager to ask as many questions as I want, to challenge, to even question the founder as I am today, to re-quote even some of the things that he might have said, to rewrite it. I love how MLR rewrote his non-gender inclusive languaging and how you poised it. I think that's beautiful. I agree with you. I don't think Holmes would mind that one single bit. He always said we should remain open at the top. And so I have been in this teaching since I was 15, just a couple years now, many years. And I would say with all honesty that I am a passionate religious scientist. I love this teaching. It serves me. But I will also say that I do not have an agenda to convert every human I run into this teaching. I do not believe that every person, in order to be happy, healthy, and live a good life, should be a part of this teaching. I think that every faith tradition has its place on our planet for people to practice. And I want everyone, more than anything else, I want people to be in a tradition that sings to their heart and their soul and their spirit. And yet I will gladly walk forward and practice passionately what I believe is right for me until the day comes when maybe it's not so right for me anymore, which may happen in this lifetime. I may at some point say, I'm going to go practice this for a while. Or it may not be until the day that I transition off the planet and I look back and I say, wow, we didn't actually have every single thing that we believed completely, perfectly right about the way the universe works. And I suspect that's probably what will happen. Because no faith tradition, no human mind, I don't think possibly can know exactly at this point in our evolutionary journey exactly how this universe works. We all find our place in it. We all find our path. We all find what serves us, but we have to, in order for us to serve our own creative process, and in order for us to serve each other more joyfully on the planet, we have to do that with a passion for our path and a willingness to uplift others in their path. Otherwise, we ourselves can become part of the problem in our righteousness. We ourselves can be violent in our righteousness. We ourselves can be fundamental about some belief that we think should be happening this way or that way. There's an author named Leslie Brazelton, who's a British-American author whose work focuses on the intersection and interactions between politics and religions. And she says, actually, when it comes to having the greatest faith in the world, the way you know your faith is true is you're willing to have doubts. You're willing to question. You're willing to say, I may not be right. This is what I believe, and I may not be right. She says, abolish all doubt, and what's left is not faith, but absolute heartless conviction. You're certain that you possess the truth, and this certainty quickly devolves into dogmatism and righteousness, by which I mean a demonstrative overweening of pride in being so very right. In short, the arrogance of fundamentalism. Like fundamentalists of all religious stripes, they have no questions, only answers. They found the perfect antidote to thought and the ideal refuge from the hard demands of real faith. This isn't faith, it's fanaticism. And we have to stop confusing the two. We have to recognize that real faith has no easy answers. It's difficult and stubborn. It involves an ongoing struggle, a continual questioning of what we think we know, a wrestling with issues and ideas. It goes hand in hand with doubt, in a never-ending conversation with it, and sometimes in conscious defiance of it. It's an opening, an opportunity to allow ourselves to deepen, and I'm inviting us to consider this edit to a beloved slogan. From change your thinking, change your life, and even beyond change your beliefs, change your life, to change what you embody, change your life. Change what you embody. Embodiment is to be an expression of. To embody something is to then welcome it in a whole new way. And there's a dissonance often between what we say we think and believe and what we actually embody. And we know that dissonance because we can feel attachment or fear, or we find ourselves behaving with righteousness, which is at its core separation. It's not oneness consciousness. It's not oneness to be righteous at all, in any realm, in any part of life. That is not oneness. And if we're practicing that, we're not practicing oneness. It is also shows itself to us in what we say we think and believe, but how we actually behave. It's that classic, I say I'm a loving person, but then when I'm at a restaurant, I treat the server rudely and horribly. That sort of thing. It shows itself, that dissonance shows itself to us in what we think we believe and what patterns actually manifest in our life over and over again. It's that classic, well, I think I believe in financial abundance, yet I cannot seem to manifest any good money or any resources. It's those patterns that show us over and over again. And this is because we get what we are, not what we want. We get what we are, not what we want. You can want something all you want, But until we embody the quality of it, we can't manifest it. So how do we move towards embodiment? I don't know. Come back next week. We'll talk about it. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. No. I'm going to keep going. I'll keep going. I got a few minutes left here. First of all, I think we do what I call embodiment prayer. Our prayer, when we first encounter it, our methodology of praying can be very heady. We can get very caught up in the steps and the words and saying the right thing, and I totally understand that. Eventually, though, when we begin to deepen our sense of prayer, our prayers become a living embodiment through the words we say, and not only the words we say, but the images that we evoke and that we allow ourselves to be present to. We have a bad reputation in the world. People looking outside, looking in, say, those people, they're just about princes, palaces, and parking spots. That's all they care about. And I've noticed that when my prayers are really deep, they no longer very often are about, I want that thing in the world to be that way. They are more about an embodiment of a quality. Because what I've discovered is that the world of form can shift so quickly. And so, yes, I might pray for health, or I might pray for money, or I might pray for an opportunity. And it might actually happen, and it might not. But if I'm praying to be an expression and embodiment of health, then I am drawn towards those things that most serve my unique body temple. If I am praying to be and express the quality of abundance, then I am drawn and guided from deep within me towards the good that will most serve me. Whereas if I pray for money, I might get a little money, but then it goes away. If I pray for health, I might lose that 5 pounds, and then I gain it right back. I might have that illness go away, but then it comes right back. It's so deeper embodiment prayers are about the qualities of beingness and the qualities of expression that we want to pull forth from deep within us to be expressed. Whereas many times we see prayer as I'm praying to get something to come to me. Embodiment prayer is I'm praying for a quality of my being to be unleashed through me. And my favorite saying from our founder is, nothing can happen to us that can't happen through us. And so embodiment is about allowing our prayers and the qualities of good we seek in the world to happen through us. Love, peace, joy. Stop trying to make it happen out there. Give that game up and start allowing it to be unleashed through here. Embodiment prayer. And at the same time, the second thing I would suggest is embodiment imagination. Along with our prayers, practicing seeing ourselves being and expressing that which we'd like to see in the world. Envisioning that, imagining that. There are 2 key ways that people can imagine things, that studies have shown us that there's one that's a little more effective than the other. So let's imagine right now we're all on a beach. Many of us just were, right? So we're on a beautiful beach, and imagine seeing yourself standing on the beach down in the sand and see the water and the waves and whatever the weather is, and imagine it. This is called disassociative imagination, because I'm outside of my body and I'm looking down at myself. Now take a moment and imagine yourself in the body, looking around at the sky and the waves, feeling the sand in your feet. That's called associative imagination. And when it's associative, it means it's coming from deep within us. Again, this is a way of embodiment, is to imagine ourselves in the situation, conditions that we would like to have expressed through us, not seeing ourselves from out there. And using the power of imagination. Now, some of us say, well, I don't have a very good imagination. But just imagine someone you love not calling when they should, and where does the imagination go? To everything that could be wrong, right? Where are they? And in those moments, we're often in our body imagining getting that horrific call that we don't want to have happen. So I know we can do this. All of us can do associative imagination of ourselves in situations. And the last one, the most important one that was in our reading this morning, is the embodiment of ourselves as the beloved divine presence that God is. We are done with the days of imagining a God that's out there. We are and have been for eons encouraged by teachers and practitioners of every faith that practices the mystical arts to remember that the divine beloved presence is who and what we are right here. That a huge part of our associative imagination can be imagining ourselves. How would I walk through my life today if I accepted that I was the divine made manifest? How would I treat people? How would I speak? How would I look at people? How would I impact life? Could I be somewhere and just imagine myself in the midst of a bunch of strangers and emanating light, letting light happen through me, blessing every person in this car wash or at the coffee shop, blessing everyone in my home, no matter what's going on in our relationships, being the beloved voice of the divine as I speak to them, as I am with them, as I allow myself to be present. Ernest Holmes says to us in The Power of Thought, let us suppose for illustration that the universe is nothing but water, permeated by an infinite intelligence. Imagine that every time this intelligence moves or thinks, ice is formed in the water, exactly corresponding to the thought. We might have countless pieces of ice of different form, color, and size. But these pieces of ice would still be water, right? H2O at a chemical level. If we could heat the entire mass, it would melt, and all forms would again become fluid. Nothing would have changed except form. The physical universe is spirit in form. You are. I am. The person sitting next to you is. We are all spirit in form. And when we embody that, and we begin to embody that, it's powerful. What's that possibly like? I lately am finding great peace and well-being just imagining that as I move through my life. Imagining myself as the living presence walking through life. It can be challenging, especially when we see so many images like we see right now on the news. Recently, I was watching all the bombing that was happening in Ukraine, watching these beautiful buildings and towns and people being harmed by these bombs, and feeling angry and frustrated and saying, okay, how do I meet that? How do I meet that with my teaching, with what I believe? How do I meet that? And I did some meditation, and when I went deep inside, that inner voice said to me, embrace and embody the presence that God is. And if I do that, what I found myself even doing was sending light to Putin and all his ilk and thinking, what if those of us who know this truth stop being so afraid and start just bombarding that man with light and love? Could we change him? Could we change the outcome? Now, to some people, that sounds minuscule. But the truth is, it's everything. It's the beginning of true transformation for anyone and everything. And if those of us who knew about this light could and would do that, we could make a difference. And it doesn't mean that we don't follow our hearts if there's something we need to do, some way we want to treat and move our feet to donate or do something to make a difference. It just means that we start by being the living embodiment of God as we witness this situation unfolding and allow ourselves to do that with some of the most challenging images that we see as well as the most beautiful moments that we get to experience in our own life as we move through this planet. That's what God is doing through us, as us. And we get to be the living embodiment of that. And so I suggest that to be a deeper embodiment of the truths that we seek at the most basic level, that we do embodiment prayer, embodiment imagination, and we embody the divine. And I'd like to close as we go into prayer with some words from Ernest Holmes from The Science of Mind, one of his beautiful meditations. Just consider these words. If you want to close your eyes, you can. And as soon as I'm done reading them, I will launch into the closing prayer. He says, "The power within me is God, and it must bless and help and heal all who come near it." Let me read that again. The power within me is God, and it must bless and help and heal all who come near it. Silently, the work goes on, and silently, all are being helped by this inner power which is operating through me. I give thanks that my power within is silently blessing all and helping everyone to whom my thought reaches. And so in this moment together, we recognize that there is one power, one presence, one life, one God operating in, through, and as this universe. It is everywhere, in everything, in every person, in every place, in every relationship, in every activity. And therefore, it is right here, right now, in this very room, in, through, and as each one of us. And today, in this prayerful moment, I speak my word on behalf of every person within the sound of my voice, from that place of oneness, acting and affirming and claiming the truth for us now, is that we walk forward from this place in a deepened awareness of our capacity to be the living embodiment of all the good that we seek. The good that we seek in the form of greater love and connection, of peace and wholeness, of harmony, of light, of life, of abundance, of joy. I accept and affirm that we are that now, and that we walk forward, not just thinking about those things, not just believing we should have more of those things, but literally feeling the deepened embodiment of the realities of these qualities of being that are our true nature. And we know that they are our true nature because they are God's true nature, and we are that which God is. Therefore, all of this good seeks expression to us, through us, and as us, and we let it. I accept and affirm that each one of us is a greater inlet for this powerful expression of the divine through our inner activities, and therefore we are a greater outlet of good into the world. We embody the light right here, right now, and it makes a difference for us, to us, for all whom we come in contact with, and for this beautiful planet and everything that occurs in it. I let this go with great faith and trust and gratitude now, knowing that as it has been spoken, it simply is so. And therefore I can let it go in faith and in trust. It is done, and so it is. Amen. Thank you.